Hello, Simone. How are you doing? I hope you had a wonderful weekend. As I promised, I am making an evaluation for you for your website at passion2success.com. This evaluation is going to take a while, so make yourself comfortable. We'll probably be here for 25 to 30 minutes. And I'm hoping that with this evaluation, I will be able to empower you to make informed decision when it comes to website design and getting a new website for yourself or even improving the website you already have. I want to give you the tools and the knowledge that you need to understand what is important about a modern website. How do you make sure that your website is not only good looking but also optimized so it really works on the internet and attracts people and converts them to your business. For this, we're looking at two things. The first thing we're looking at is brand foundations, which is basically the question, how well do you have your branding set up to really be unique, to have an impact, to look great and to look recognizable and distinct in your brand on the internet, but also by extension, on any other materials that you're going to use to promote yourself, like posters, flyers, business cards, etc. We're going to look at whether you have just a coherent and strong appearance. The second part is going to be site optimization, where we look at more technical things like SEO and is your site secure, is it performance optimized, is it responsive, does it work on mobile devices, and does it have a proper social media integration and iconography and stuff like that. So without further ado, we're going to get right into the first section of this video, which is going to be, it's going to be the brand foundations. Now, the first criteria here that I have is your business profile. The question for that is what, how, who, when, where. The classic W questions. Do we, from the first look at your website, understand your motivations, your goals, your values, your mission? Does your front page convey personality, appeal? Does it give us an idea of your services that you do, and does it give us the opportunity to contact you? If we look at the front page like this, we see that there is a lot of visual content. You have a nice header with visuals. You have a video that keep the viewer interested, and you have a clear message in the header right up here. Your passion is your wealth, and value proposal, passion, profit, prosperity. On the other hand, the front page is packed with content. We have a whole lot of text here. We have all these menu items. We have text here. We have more text, sign up thing. You have more where people can click here. They can click on these. And then they have all this text here. So there's a lot of information that is thrown at a viewer right off the bat. And I would recommend cutting that down, because with all these links and buttons and calls to action, it makes it difficult for a viewer or a user to focus on any one thing. There is no clear guidance here. So that would be my feedback for the business profile. You are going in the right direction, but I think it is a lot to take in at the first glance. The second criteria is our color palette. What is the color palette of your website? How many colors are you using? What do they signify, and how do they work together? Now, it is very clear that on your website there is a dominance of gold and red tones throughout, right? And you're using that very deliberately and very consistently. So gold sort of exudes excellence, royalty, and through the introduction of red you signify passion and energy. So again, it's clear that you put some thought into choosing these colors, and they work as they should. On the front page, one thing that I noticed is that all of a sudden there's this blue color here that just sticks out and sort of breaks the whole look, right? Because in a video it makes sense to have, for instance, green backgrounds or something like that, but in the whole appearance of the branding, I wouldn't just randomly out of the blue introduce another color that isn't there in the rest of the branding. I would recommend keeping it very consistent, and you can use other things to bring this text out. You can use bold, you can use italics, you can use underlines or something like that, or you can just decorate it in a particular manner so it becomes more visible. Another thing that I noticed is that the site background right here and the widget backgrounds like this this and up here. It's a shade of beige that makes everything feel very bland and dull. It feels like the bad kind of senior, the bad kind of retired person that just sits at home in beige pants and watches TV. I don't think that's what you want to bring out. So I would, there's other colors that you can choose to decorate the background that are either much more passionate or strong, or if you go for neutral, which is what I would frankly do, you could just make it white. You could make that white, and then you will give the other colors immediately more room to breathe, right? And you'll still be able to delineate items on the page, like boxes or something like that, through their borders, right? You have a borderline here, borderlines here, you have the borderlines around this and this. So even if you take this away and just make it white, you'll still have a coherent design, and you won't add to any confusion or anything like that. Overall, I think your palette is deliberate, it's well chosen, and it is consistent, so it works quite well, with these few caveats that I noticed. If we look at fonts, how many fonts are associated with the brand and what do they express? I find that both as a primary font, for instance, for the body copy, all the text, as well as a secondary font, which you would use for headlines or stuff like that, you're using Arial. Arial is one of the most common fonts ever. It's basically the first font that comes to mind. So basically it says, like, what the message that you're saying here is, I didn't bother to look at any font except the first one that I found that just was there in front of me. I very urgently recommend to use something more unique and distinct so you can set yourself apart from the crowd. Also, you can combine fonts. You can have one font for the main text and you can have another font for headlines. I also noticed that there is little consistency here in the way you use fonts, because this is a different color, first of all. We talked about this before, but also this font size is different from this font size, is different from this font size, and this is all caps, this is not all caps, this is smaller again, this is a little bit bigger than this, but it's smaller than this, and this is all of a sudden italics, and then we have this, which is again a different color, and it's a different font size, and it's very, very close to the edges of the button. So there's little consistency here in the way you distribute your fonts, right? Every font or every headline, every kind of text that you have that sort of stands out has a different font, design or look, and that makes it everything very I'm looking for a word that I can't find in English right now. It makes it very incoherent, right? And you would rather suggest coherence, because that also makes you look more confident and more streamlined, right? Which is going to benefit your brand. So the two takeaways here are use a font that is less common, use something else than Arial. You can go to Google Fonts and just find something nice, and use coherent appearance in your text. Like, don't use different font size and bold and italics just randomly, but use them with have a plan for how you use them. The one other big thing that I need to point out regarding text and fonts is that you have a lot of text that is written on images. Like this whole header is one image. You can see I can drag this here and I can see that on the picture there's the text. Again, down here, all of this is just one big image. This is not text that I can, if I wanted to copy this text, I cannot highlight it. I cannot click and drag so I can copy this text somewhere else, because it's all on an image. Same here, right? So that introduces a whole lot of problems. First of all, like I said, you cannot interact with this text as a user, right? The other thing is, if you have text on pictures, then a person can read it, but a machine cannot. So imagine a blind person wants to go to your website and they have a software installed that reads the website out to them. That software is going to not be able to read this text because it's not text. It's a picture. The other thing is, so basically your website is less accessible. You're making it impossible for certain users to properly use the website. The other problem is that if it cannot be read by machines, then all this text, all these really strong, powerful keywords, training, transformational marketing, coaching, turnkey package, branding, executive, right, and accelerated business growth, all these are strong, powerful words that Google cannot read because they're on a picture. So Google cannot use them. Like you're wasting these words because you put them on a picture. So always when you write something, write actual text. Do not write it on pictures and put the pictures on the website. It is very damaging to your SEO and to your accessibility and user experience. Also, these pictures will scale in different ways, right? If you open this on a phone, the picture might be scaled down so much that you cannot read it anymore. So please keep that in mind. What else? I'm just going to quickly go back to my notes to see if I haven't overlooked anything. And I haven't. We're going to move on to the word mark, which is your Passion to Success word mark. Just to clarify, the difference between a word mark and a logo is that a word mark is basically a kind of text that displays the name of a brand or company. So all of these are word marks, right? You can see that it's just, you can read the name of the company, Panasonic, Facebook, Google, and Porsche, and but they are stylized in a certain way. Either they use a certain font, or they use certain colors, or they have a kind of graphical upgrade here that sets them apart, right? So that would be a word mark, whereas a logo is an actual graphic, right? This is a logo, it's a graphic, stars, or YouTube is more of a word mark. But this it's a graphical design that signifies and represents a company. We see this and we immediately know what it is. That's Apple, right? So you are using a word mark, which is perfectly fine. And I think that word mark, we've known each other for a while now. The Passion to Success word mark, I think, is a well-established insignia of your brand and a cornerstone that lends it distinction and recognizability. It works well, and I recommend keeping it. Or if you ever wanted to change this up, make sure it still says Passion to Success in the same alignment and in the same or a similar font. And you can change the features, you can change the thickness, or you can change the way the colors play on it, but keep the recognizability, because you have a strong brand that you've established over the course of many years. And if you suddenly just decided to use an entirely different logo, that wouldn't work. I don't think that would help you, because it would just water down what you have spent a long time establishing, and creating a kind of reputation with. As for the layout and design of the whole website, I have to be a little bit blunt. I think it looks a little bit like a mid 2000s kind of blog. It's definitely not something that would remind us of any modern web design. With modern technology being where it is, you can totally afford to use full screen imagery to just impress on just right on the opener of your site. You can use half this space up here to just have a great big picture, something that really speaks a strong language, and a slogan that is short, that is to the point, that is precise. So hammer out a powerful, clear, and striking message that you can open with, that you can impress with, and then when people scroll down, you can follow with very carefully chosen pieces of information as the user scrolls over your website. Be generous with white space, right? Because there's little white space here. The text is very close together, and we have all this space that you're not using at all. You could start using that, but then use less space with actual content and leave more space to perhaps a picture in the background, or just to make it to keep it more empty and less distracting, because that way you're going to allow your message to really breathe and to really have an impact. Right now, there's little here that really has a strong impact because there's so much everywhere. Yeah, that's what I have for layout and design. I'm going to move on to your slogan or motto. So the next three things, the slogan, motto, and then the pitch, and then the long description are basically the 3 key types of copy that you need to have on your website. And I think they're all there, and I think you did a really good job with them as well. We've talked about them before. Your slogan is "Your passion is your wealth." 5 words. It's very short, it's very distinct, and it's straight to the point of what you do and what you offer. And you follow it up with these, these keywords that have a strong impact and that, to my mind, really work well. So that's great. And you have a pitch, also known as an elevator speech, which is basically your brand's value proposal in 1 to 2 sentences. I think the pitch would be on the front page. This would qualify as your pitch. Simone Hoare is an inspirational speaker, consultant, trainer, and coach in accelerated business, profitable business growth. It's great. I think it's a good message. You could be perhaps a little clearer on whom you help and how. So perhaps, if you want to, again, go back to the drawing board, keep it as long as this, right? Because the length is really nice. You can still go a little bit longer as well. Of course, there's some room here. But, perhaps give a little bit of a clearer idea of who exactly you help. And then your long description, that would be 2 to 3 paragraphs that just promote the brand and its values that, for instance, can be used in the description on your Facebook page. And if I look around your website, I find this the strongest 2 to 3 sentence type of moment is your mission statement. Oops, come here. That really works. It's qualified, it is strong, it is meaningful. You could break it down into more sentences because the first sentence goes from here to here to here to here to here to here to and then it's not even the end of a sentence, it's a hyphen, and then we have another sentence that keeps going and keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. So if we're generous, we're going to say this is 2 sentences. If you want to be, very precise, you could say this is actually just 1 long sentence. And I would recommend breaking this down into 3 sentences or 4 sentences. Just make it shorter and, add 1 or 2 line breaks. So it breaks it apart a little and it is easier for the eye to take in. Another point that I have here is, do you have a logo? We don't, as we discussed before, right? A logo would be a graphical representation. And I don't really think you have a logo. You don't need one because you have a strong word mark and it works for what it is supposed to do. So the next point in our evaluation is the optimization of your website. We're going to look at different features here, and I have different tabs open to go through all of them step by step. The first one is your who is information. If somebody goes to whois and looks up passion2success.com, they might be able to find personal information of you, Simone Hoare. Good news is they can't, because when you registered your domain, it was masked. You registered with GoDaddy.com, and this is the information that is here, right? You have your registration date, you have the registrar, and you have the contact organization. It just says Passion to Success, State Quebec, Country Canada. It doesn't give away your home address or your telephone number or anything like that. If you have friends or people that from business that their websites, you can go to, if you just type whois into Google and you go to whois.com and you type their website in here, you can see that there's probably somebody among them that hasn't taken precautions to hide that information, and then it's publicly accessible. So in your case, it is well hidden, so that's perfect. The other thing is, for the whois information, the question that I have is, do you have your own domain, or do you have a domain that is a subdomain of something else? And we know that you have your own domain. It's passion2success.com, which is very, very important for your brand and for your business to have your own domain and not be passion2success.wordpress.com or something like that. So yeah, great. Test results for, is your site secured? Is your site secured? Basically, the question the reason we need to ask this is, if we go to, let's say, Amazon.com, right? We're going to see that in the browser we get this little padlock. It says that there is a secure connection to Amazon.com. And it means that anybody who visits Amazon.com, and it's of course for Amazon or eBay or any kind of site that sells stuff, this is incredibly important. This site is encrypted. It uses HTTP 2, Sorry, it uses HTTPS and SSL, which are two technologies that can be used to encrypt the website so that it's less likely for hackers to intercept anything you type into the website. So for Google, for Amazon, for instance, right? If you buy something and you give them your credit card information, it is a secure connection, so it's encrypted, so it's hard for hackers to get in there and steal that information. Now, recently, Google and other, just SEO wise, it has become an important subject that you need to have a website that is SSL encrypted, especially if you have a website where you sell stuff or you get people to interact with it in any other way, which isn't immediately the case in your website. I mean, they can sign up for a newsletter and they can contact you and use this information, but that's not a serious thing where they leave any serious information. So right now it's not that important yet for you, but it's looking like in the next year or so it will become a requirement for every website to have SSL encryption, and if your website doesn't, then it's going to be penalized in SEO and it's going to be harder for people to find you on Google. So Google is tightening the rules here, and you need to get SSL encryption. You can get that from your hosting provider, which is, I think, you probably have your domain at GoDaddy as well as your hosting. So you could talk to GoDaddy about getting SSL and HTTPS encryption. It's also written down in the PDF that I'm giving you. So look at the details to that, and you're gonna have to pay a little bit, I don't know, a few dollars per year, probably like 20 or something, and then they can enable that for you. Let them give you all the information you need to know in order to do this. Performance, website performance. How fast does your website load, and how good is it when people navigate it? Just looking around on your website and just clicking on different things, everything loads pretty fast. I like it. You have this is a convenient and snappy way of navigating the website. But if we look at the test results, we see that on PageSpeed and on YSlow, which are two testing methods, you get 76% and 73%. And it's usually not very hard to just push this up to 90-95%. And these are the kinds of values you want to aim for. So if you go to GTmetrix and then type in that your site get tested, it gives you all these advice for what you can do to improve your website. So talk to the web designer that made this website and ask them to implement some of these things so that the score goes up and you get better ratings, because not only is a faster website going to be good for your users, it's going to load faster and it's going to be more fun to use, but it's also going to be good for SEO, again, because Google knows how fast your website loads, and if it loads slowly, then Google will ultimately not be too kind to you when it comes to search results. The website loads in 2.1 seconds, right? That's for the front page. 2 seconds is a very short time to wait for a website to load fully. It is 1 megabyte big, and it has 44 HTTP requests that go out. That's pretty nice. Those are good results overall. Another thing that we need to check is the time to first byte. Time to first byte means between the moment that somebody types in your website's address into their address bar here and presses enter, how much time passes until the user receives the very first byte of data from the server. And the time that passes is 285 milliseconds on your website, which is excellent. It's a really fast response time. Less than 500 milliseconds is very good. If you can push it to below 200, you're doing really well, but this is great. There's really nothing here that you need to change. Now, is your site mobile friendly? Unfortunately, it really is not. If you go to Google's mobile friendly test, it tells you that it fails all the different checks. So if somebody tries to open your website on a mobile device, it just doesn't work properly, and that is a serious issue. If in 2018 your site is not mobile friendly, this is going to severely affect your SEO, and of course it's going to completely destroy the user experience. If anybody wants to access the site on their phone, they're not going to have a good time. I'm just going to just to test this. I'm going to go ahead and, if you do this, just resize your browser window. You can already see, does the site adapt to the size of the browser window or not? And this site is completely static. It does not adapt at all. So it definitely is not user friendly, and it is not mobile friendly, and that's a serious issue. Favicon or site icon. What is a favicon? The favicon is this little thing up here. Every big website has its own favicon. This is the Facebook favicon. This is the Google favicon. These are different favicons of different websites. You have a star that looks a little bit like a sheriff star. Unfortunately, I don't see any star anywhere else. Like nowhere in your branding is the star an icon that is part of your brand. It doesn't really come up anywhere else, right? So I'm not really sure how the star relates to your brand. I mean, the star itself as an icon in itself does signify excellence, and winning, but then there needs to be some sort of closer connection here. We need to understand better, what does this have to do with passion to success? Also, the way this star is shaped with the little things, the little points at the end, it really looks like a sheriff star. So it looks like it reminds us of the Wild West, which is not what we want to go for. So that is the first thing. It is not the best choice of site icon, because it is an icon that bears little relevance to your brand and evokes a little bit the wrong impressions. The other thing is, this icon is implemented in a way that it really does not work very well on all devices. Let's say somebody wants to make a bookmark of their website on their iPhone, then there is no icon here. There's no icon that could be put there. So the iPhone has to just guess something and has to use it like an excerpt or something. Same for Android devices. Nothing here, right? There's no icon that is defined to represent your site. On Windows 8 and 10, on those tiles, there's nothing here. It just has to, like, Windows is forced to just use a generic Internet Explorer icon. And then, for the Safari browser on iOS, it's the same thing. There's no icon. The only place where we have this favicon present is for actual classic browsers. It's right up here. So there's definitely things here you can fix, and that I would recommend you do fix. The last thing we're going to look into is your Google search result, and from all I can tell, your metadata is there and it's proper. If somebody looks for you in Google, they will find a good site description right here. They will find a good site title right here, and a good site description right here, which gives us an idea of who you are and what you do. They're relevant to your brand, so that people who look for you will be able to understand what they just found. However, if we look for you here, just looked for Passion to Success in Google, I see that in the English version, it just says Passion to Success Corp. You have 60 to 70 characters here, so you have at least the same amount of space here that you're not using. You can put strong keywords here. You can put the keyword Montreal there. You can put business growth, business coaching, anything that gives people a stronger idea of what you're doing. And especially the site title is a part of your site where you should not waste the available space, because if somebody looks for you in Google, the site title is the first place, the most prominent thing about your website that Google will show, and that Google also will use to index your site and to categorize your site and use it for SEO. So use that space wisely. Extend your site title to really say what you do, who you are, and to really get the message of your brand across right immediately off the bat. Well, that is all. We've made it to the end. Thank you very much for all your patience, and I hope all this helped you a little bit better to understand what it is that you can do to improve your website and how it can match modern standards of a well-optimized website. I thank you very much for watching, and if you have any further questions or comments, you are always welcome to contact me. I will talk to you soon. Bye.